He was not mentally aware of what the government was doing.
If we're talking about the legality of something signed with an Autopen or not, I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything President Trump signed.
The key point is that you're missing it.
Stephen, I'm so sorry we're running out of time here. I do appreciate how much time you have spent with me,
Biden didn't know what was being signed in his name.
All right.
That's the key point.
I understand what you are saying. I do appreciate you coming on to explain your point of view. Thank you very much for being willing to be here, and I'm sure we'll talk again.
That's CNN host and woman with an appropriate name, Kasie Hunt, abruptly ending an interview after White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller gives her audience a masterclass on how to own dishonest pretend journalists. Welcome to Nerk News. I'm Nerkish. And it looks like President Trump has really got the political hacks and establishment media's undies in a bunch after declaring via Truth Social that the signatures on Biden's pardons are null and void due to the usage of Autopen. Here's Stephen Miller taking the smug and combative Kasie Hunt to the woodshed for pathetically attempting and failing to use a gotcha question about President Trump.
We saw President Trump's comments about the use of the Autopen, the pardons that President Biden signed. And I just want to know from you, has President Trump ever used an Autopen to sign official documents, either in his first term or since he took office a second time?
Well, I've seen President Trump hand sign every executive order my whole time, and every part.
Have you ever seen him use an Autopen?
For him. But President Trump signs every single critical government function document. But here's the more important point about that, even more important. The more important point is that President Trump personally directs every single federal government policy.
Right, but has he ever signed anything with an Autopen?
To my knowledge, every single executive order, every single proclamation, every single major government action, every single thing that affects the lives, safety, and livelihoods of the American people that comes out of the executive office of the president, he has signed. But more importantly, he has directed,
signed without
he has briefed, he has been involved in. And this is the most important point. It's not just that Joe Biden used the Autopen. It's that he didn't know it. He was not briefed on it. He was not aware of it. He did not approve it.
You know, it's funny that establishment media is more upset about Trump nullifying Biden's pardons than the pardons themselves, or the fact that they were issued by a guy who dropped out of the race because he was essentially deemed mentally incompetent by his own party. I mean, I don't recall the media being concerned over the convenient preemptive pardons, blatant lying about pardoning his son, or the largest single-day mass clemency of drug dealers linked to murderers. Instead, the media wants to deflect by focusing on whether or not Trump has ever used an Autopen at any point in his life, because Democrats and their lackeys are working overtime to try to paint a narrative that President Trump is a hypocrite who's bending the law so they can hope to have a chance in the midterms. Here's Hunt trying to paint a picture that is actually the Trump administration that's unlawful because they want to deport violent illegals.
When you say that this person has no authority at all, this is how our system works. It starts with these judges and then continues up. At what point does it become, in your view, legal for the justice system to be looking at this and making a judgment? And I fail to see how there's any other way but to start with where we're starting here before you get to eventually the Supreme Court.
Well, so first of all, there's a term in law, justiciable. This is not justiciable. In other words, this is not subject to judicial remedy. When the president is exercising his Article II powers to defend the country against an invasion or to repel a foreign terrorist that is unlawfully in the country, he's exercising his core Article II powers as commander-in-chief.
Is Venezuela invading the U.S.?
This is a very important point. This is a Title 50 authority. It's a commander-in-chief authority. So just to ask you a simple question, you talk about how the system works. Does a district court judge have the right to direct or enjoin troop movements overseas? Yes or no?
Well, Stephen, my question, if you could answer my question first,
in other words,
is Venezuela invading our country in a way that would apply this way?
So I'll answer yours and you'll answer mine. Under the terms of the statute, Tren de Aragua is an alien enemy force that has come here as detailed at length in the proclamation at the direction of the Venezuelan government. The statute says that a president has the ability to repel an invasion or predatory incursion that is directed by a foreign
state
government.
or a government, right? Are they a state or a government?
Yes, it is documented. The TDA was sent by the Venezuelan government in the proclamation.
You know, it's absolutely hilarious how bad these smug liberal women are at their jobs. I mean, they're too biased to be objective reporters and too emotional and dim-witted to be effective propagandists. They're always stating their personal opinions, involuntarily making weird faces for the camera, and starting fights they can never finish with people who are far more knowledgeable and experienced than they'll ever be. Just watch Hunt's mannerisms in this next clip as Miller verbally body slams her and she begins fidgeting and blinking obsessively like she's going through withdrawals.
Under the Constitution, who makes that determination? A district court judge elected by no one, or the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? The president and the president alone makes a decision of what triggers that determination.
So do you then think
we
are actually at war with Venezuela, the nation state of Venezuela?
You're not hearing me and you're not understanding me. Read the statute. Alien Enemies Act, 1798. It says if a predatory incursion is perpetrated by a foreign government, so it lists three qualifying actions. It could be an act of war.
It does say in the very beginning there has to be a declared war against a nation or a state. That's what it says.
No, wrong. Look up the statute. It's on my account on social media.
That's actually where we
Everyone
found
can
it
go
earlier.
Yes, it says or a predatory incursion or an invasion. The statute delineates three criteria for triggering the Alien Enemies Act. One is an act of war, which, by the way, an invasion is an act of war, but put that aside. One is an invasion, which this is. One is a predatory incursion, which this is. So it actually meets all three statutory criteria. But with respect to this particular statute, the proclamation is utilizing the incursion and invasion language in the statute. The president's designation of Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization and as an alien enemy are part of his inherent plenary authority. There is no way.
At what point in the system, Stephen,
how are you going to expel? Hold on. How are you going to expel illegal alien invaders from our country who are raping little girls, who are murdering little girls, if each and every deportation has to be adjudicated in a district court judge? That means you have no country. It means you have no sovereignty. It means you have no future. It is fundamentally incompatible to have a country and have individual expulsions adjudicated by a single district court judge.
You know, it might be time for Democrats to ask for a refund because the shills they've installed in establishment media don't appear to be worth all the money and effort. I mean, those were pretty weak arguments from Hunt. Because I'm old enough to remember way back in President Trump's first term when liberals like her were saying that Trump ruined the federal courts by packing them with sycophants and lapdogs who will do whatever he wants, just like he supposedly did with the Supreme Court. Yet suddenly these same people seem to have no issue defaulting to these courts as being absolutely authoritative on everything when the decisions are biased towards opinions they agree with. But let me know what you think. How much power should the courts have in cases like this? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye.